So I'm going to create a jQuery based students record. So my very first requirement is to copy the dependency files. I have them in my previous project. I'm copying them. I always follow one small strategy that helps me to keep my coding pretty clean. I always have very less projects open in my workspace, project pane, because that guarantees I don't modify unwanted file, and also speed up my NetBeans somehow. So, and every time if a lot of files or something is getting open, I'll close everything and have only the relevant file open. If you like that strategy, you can also use it, but it's not something a kind of a guarantee that things will work pretty well. But having everything organized will help you. So in the very beginning stage, you can start doing that part. So I always have only limited files open. I don't have other files open if I don't require them. Okay, so the CSS. I won't be explaining much, but if any specific topics which you would need some explanation, I will explain that. And if you really want some part where you could not understand, please you can also raise and say like how things work. Some if you need a clarity, please let me know as well. Data role for a root is a page. I'll give an ID for this called home. It's the very first page. And other elements such as header, okay, additional thing required, let's see. This class UI content is to make sure the sufficient padding and alignment to be given for the uh, data role which is having a main. Or if you don't want to use this particular UI content, you can very well give a margin padding directly as a separate style sheet. But when something is already there, why we use our own style sheet? So we try to use whatever the default layout gives us. If anything is not covered from the default layout, we'll have it added. Like to let's have a slightly contrast theme. Okay. I use a theme B for the entire page, slightly black. So the very first page should display the list of the students. This value should be populated through a JavaScript, but for testing purpose, as of now, we'll keep an hard-coded value. Okay, so a list of students, and one more theme which I like, data in set to true. In set mean everything would be set as a kind of a set, a group. What way it will make a difference, I'll show. A kind of margin, and of course gives a nice border, a curvy edges. So I like that. I think it's too black, right? It's very difficult to see. Maybe I'll change the theme. Okay, so this set gives a additional look and feel. So data insert, if I set true, so all list elements set as a group. The first one will have a top and edges curved, and last one as so. So this looks pretty well. Before doing it, in fact, I need a login page, right? I'll do one thing. I'll make the login page as the first one. We'll put this other stuff a little later. I want to wrap, I need a two input text field and one button. So the user can log in with the login credential. Otherwise, we can route the user to register himself. So two things I need to do in this case. For that, a recommended wrapper for your form elements is field contain. It is not mandatory. And label for your form and input text field. Label mean it's nothing but the particular input text field for what purpose is being given, even though the placeholder somehow guides them. But once the user start typing the content on the input text field, that part will disappear. So it is better to have a label always added just before the input text fields. Let's see how things look. So username and something. Input text field is there. I have wrapped it within the data role called field contain. With this, without this, how things work also we'll see. And the best practice would be this label is used for what? This is used for the ID called username. This is also a semantic guideline for your HTML content in mobile devices. Remember, some mobile device like a BlackBerry or maybe the previous legacy drives sometimes may not have a touch screen. It may be depending on the keyboard, enter button or shift tab button, something like that. So each field should know the text is required for this particular field. So it will get a guideline from it. So it is better to give a label is used for which ID of the particular input text field. It will give a guideline for your touch screen based screen phones and hardware screen for hardware, what you call keyboards. also it will give a guidelines. When they hit next or tab or something, it will automatically shift the focus to a next field. So it is recommended to keep a label for the specific ID where it is pointing, and I would recommend it to keep it within the tag called field contain. Why? Let you know. If I extend this username automatically shift to a horizontal view, and back to back both are in the left username and the right the input text field is automatically getting aligned because of the field container. Otherwise it won't do the job. It is particularly helpful for your tablet based phones which is having a larger screen, so the content could be spread with the effective space. So if I do not put the field contain, this won't give you the flexible uh, width or something needed for a tablet. So both will have the same look and feel for tablet and the phone. So the username stays always on the top, which may not be an important point, but in a longer run, this kind of thing would be very important if you are addressing multiple or hybrid type devices. Okay, so the name. This type is password is nothing to do with this ID password. This field contain also adds a small horizontal ruler to separate the forms. Okay, so that's fine. Maybe you need to add more. Decide whether it's needed or not. A href to make it as a button. Define a data role as button. This login is not there. In fact, the label is not needed, but I just keep it to give a alignment. So login just exactly appears below to the input text field, so it gives a blank space here. It gives a nice look and feel for tablet phones. Because I added an empty label here, so it gives a space. This is for my username password. So user has to enter this required username and password, and once you click, it has to go to the next screen. To make it work, probably I'm going to need a registration screen as well. Let me add a register button. Here, I want to keep it at the right. So if the user prefer to register, he can click here and go to the registration screen and register himself. Now we need to create the registration screen. Of course, we still need to do our required page which can store the content, but for that we have to complete the registration screen, so that we'll give an actual username password registered by the user, then he make use of the application. So we have to do the registration screen. In jQuery Mobile, in further pages, I'm not going to add any standard tags of HTML5 because I already understand jQuery Mobile is loading everything in the single file called index.html, or very first file what you are loading. So only the page container DOM is getting modified, that is injected to a body tag. So additional tag or declaration not needed for the further pages. But make sure the root div tag always contain data role page and ID. I'll have a kind of prefix register screen, something like that, to maintain a practice ID. Not to waste time, so let me copy. Discard the warnings because NetBeans is giving warning because it couldn't find the class, but it will automatically could be found uh, as it is loaded to a base DOM. Default is left, but still. Username. Let's have a couple of other options. Let me have a gender, whether the male or female, for registration option. So for that, I need one more wrapper because when I have a checkbox or registration or radio button, we have to understand radio button is always maintain a single choice. Mean from the group of control, only one choice at a time could be selected. Any attempt to select another automatically removes the selection of the previous one, whereas the checkbox used primarily for multiple selections. So for example, interested in travel, business, arts, something like that. Some people may have an interest on both, some people may not have an interest on one. So multiple selection, if you want to give, you can use the checkbox. So in this case, I want to use gender. Naturally, it should be a radio button because no person in the world could make. I don't need to say that. Okay, so I'm going to need one more wrapper, which is called field set. In fact, field set could have been used instead of field contain as well, because it's the same job it is going to do. It is a part of a standard HTML. It's nothing to do with the jQuery mobile. Field set also not needed, I hope. See one more. Called control group. This will wrap the further UIs what you are going to add, because there's going to be more than one selection. input type radio. I wrap two input fields which is having a type called radio. Mean this input field would be showing as a radio button. Remember, radio button mean it should be under a group so that a single choice could be maintained. That's the reason I wrapped everything as a control group, and also made sure the name is given same for the both the fields. Mean it belongs to a group called gender. So one particular single choice could be maintained if the same group name is used for the two input fields. Particularly useful for radio button and checkboxes. Before making it, we have to see how it looks like. So I need to do some here. Need to point the register button to If you notice, a nice layout has been given for radio button. I can maintain a single choice. You can have as many as radio button belong to one single group. So user could only select one single button. Make sure if you are using radio button or checkbox, it is wrapped within a div tag containing a control group. This control group will add the required design for you, this kind of toggle design, this particular layout it will add. Something not looking good for my tablet view or desktop view. I think I need to give a space here. If you are using control group instead of the particular control which belongs to one particular group, that you can define it as a legend, because legend is common between the control group elements. Let's show another. Okay, if I throw this guy out, now I may need a field set to make my legend working. Field set will group all your input fields. So it just give another guarantee that all input fields are belong to one group, so that a legend could be placed. Legend means the header of the particular group. So in this case, the legend is going to be gender. Sorry, this is the wrong practice. Still not good. Somehow I made them gender coming. That works. Let's see. Nothing good. problems using gender. Okay, we'll come back to it a little later. What exactly is the problem? But anyway, it's showing no error in mobile view. Okay, we'll also put one checkbox also. We have come up to this stage, so let us have a checkbox. Checkbox anyway going to be an individual choice, so not necessary to have it belong to one single group, but if you want you can still do it. In fact, you don't need to mention the name tag also. Say I'm interested in business. No choice, others or so this is a multiple selection group. So a multiple choice could be made, not like the gender. Then when you give it as a checkbox, if you notice the UI looks like a flattened one, gives kind of checkbox look and feel. It is a round one, and naturally a single choice will be made. And also the contents is overflowing because the size of the content increase, the header footer remains in the same position, only the content is overflowing. So the user can enter the required fields and click register. We have to save that somewhere. Better we use what you call local storage. Local storage can have it permanently stored, not like a session storage. So we'll see them. In fact, I'm not pretty comfortable why the field set is giving it trouble for me. Okay, I'll come back to that. Maybe I'll still have my so we'll first finish the local storage part so that these data could be saved. So whatever the username he enters here, the same thing he need to enter and have the particular page displayed. I mean the further index page or welcome page where he can add the student record. Before to do that, I have to make sure everything is having ID, because ID is going to give a uh, access to a particular DOM. So I need to make sure all IDs are present. Okay, username, password, everything is there. I feel this ID is quite redundant. Username, password, the same username, password we are using here also. It is not going to give much trouble, but to avoid trouble, I want to give differentiation between them. So reg username, reg password, something I'm giving, not to get confused with the one which is already there in the login. Because ID in the sense should be unique. No two ID can have a same name, but it is applicable within the document alone. Mean this particular HTML, if it contains an ID which is repeated, mean it will give an error. But whereas index is a different page, it can have it. But the way jQuery handle the pages, everything is it's merging with a single document. So there it may have a conflict with the IDs. So to avoid them, I made sure any IDs used in any pages within the jQuery mobile, I'm not going to use the same ID. So to make it different, I just prefixed something, and otherwise I don't see any conflict. So, no problem. This is called register screen. Because I am going to need a local storage to store my content. Recommendation: make sure you write all your JavaScript part within index.html itself. You don't need to write it in the separate pages. You don't need, actually, it is not, you should not, because every page is loaded within the page container which is located in the body tag. So we can write safely in the index.html itself. So for better maintenance, I'm going to write any additional custom JavaScript in the index.html itself, even though it is something to do with the other pages. Okay, make sure my document couple of methods I am going to need it. I'll have them ready. Page container. Was that change? Before change or after change? What's that? Before change. So we made it quite longer. Function. And it's going to contain two arguments. UI to page. Since I know it, I'm going to write register screen. If a register screen is loaded, those DOMs will be available and I can put them into use. So to make that, for example, I need to see the DOM called reg username, reg password, if it is available or not. How I can get a guarantee that if this particular page called register screen is loaded, I'm sure that DOM would be available. So for that purpose, I'll have this block open. So anytime if I need to get a value of a particular DOM, I can make sure the page is loaded. Then from there I'll get the values. Naturally, the user will navigate to a register screen in order to register himself. So he will simply click the register screen and the register screen would have got loaded. Now I can start the coding from here because these DOMs would be available only when the register screen is loaded. For testing, I have to make sure in the very early stage it is working. Okay, it works. Two things are possible. The register screen can also be used for adding a new, for example, adding a new content, or maybe it is used for modifying the existing content. Because anytime user want to see or you want to modify the username password, he can modify. So we need to give the flexibility as well. So two part we need to do. But before doing that, we may have further issues, but before that, let us first carry out registration details. So I'm going to say there is a button called register. Register. Register user. I'm going to use it for I'll replace the username password with the regular expression validation part little later, but as of now I just want to make sure it is not empty. Okay, so further values, what all we have? Gender. If you notice, the naming convention is male. Is it going to be male? So that condition I'm going to check. There is a method called attr attribute in jQuery. Check. If you use this method, it will check the particular DOM. If it will only work for checkbox and radio button. It won't work for other input fields. So if the attribute is set checked, it will return true. If the attribute was not checked, for example, female is select bin, male will turn out to be a false. We'll see them. To verify. Enter something. Maybe select the female. Oh, sorry, I haven't connected this with register user. There are two ways to register or call this a function. One is directly calling through JavaScript. Since being a hyperlink, I have to use a prefix called JavaScript. Or I can use this DOM based registration ID dot click, but we have to make sure the DOM is loaded. But either way will work. I want to make a simplified one. Undefined is coming. Chat. Email. Disease. Male. Female. Check. Find. Time to refer the jQuery document. I would always prefer to refer the official document. I think it's quite do. I think the prefix something I need to do. Checked. Defined. So there another voice. This is outdated one. Prop also will work. Let me try prop instead of attribute. So the prop is working. I think attribute should also work. I don't know why it is not working. Attribute checked. And is also there. So if you refer the official document, things would be there, your further clarification. But as per the document, the attribute is also working, and that is saying 1 plus prop is the older one. I don't know what's the prop. Maybe double quotation. No idea. Okay, so I'll put to prop. If you are Googling, if you're trying to get a help, keep an order always. Refer the official document first. If you do not understand, then go for other documents, maybe Stack Overflow, some other forums which talks about it. Otherwise, I don't see any other useful resource. So typically I refer one or two documents, but I'll give always importance to the official documents. So that will always contain the exact information. So now if I select female, I get a state male false and the female set to true. So I can get two different state. So based on that, I can identify whether the particular item is selected or not. Okay, so typically the property is used for checking the particular state whether it is checked or not. Maybe attribute will work if you want to set a value to a specific. Uh, Say for example, default value you want to keep it. Where it is. By default, you want to keep uh, female selected. So what I can do is I can call in this stage because the DOM would be ready. Checked. Set to true. So if I set in this way, the particular female value would have got selected to true. Let me see if that works. No. This is because of jQueryMobile radio checkbox. Radio checkbox or checkbox radio, I don't know. Okay, radio checkbox refresh mean this particular component state would be refreshed and would be a new value would be assigned. Still not working. Now it's selected. So the default selection right now is set to female. So if you really want to have some values being selected, this is the statement DOM ID attribute set to checked true or false. False means it will uncheck, and make sure you call checkbox radio refresh the UI. This kind of refresh part would be needed only for checkbox and the list view. So we will see wherever it is coming. So this state should be refreshed in order to have a specific view updated. This will only come for checkbox, radio buttons and list view. List view means nothing but the UI unordered list view. So default female is selected, and of course I can read the state of others. What else I have? Arts, okay. Let it be. So username, password, and these are all the details should be saved. Now I need to create an object. I have no choice. I need to state every state of the particular application. So is female, is this. To make it the key values, I'll keep it in a lowercase. So we'll differentiate. Okay, so this is an object. What I try to do is get all the values and save it in a JSON object, or in fact a JavaScript object, and that I finally convert as a string and save it in a local storage. So if all goes well, things should be saved. I get the username, password, I put everything in a JavaScript object, and that object is converted to a JSON string, and that is getting stored in the local storage. Remember, we used this same technique previously, but that time it was JavaScript array. But not only JavaScript array, JavaScript objects can also be saved and converted as a JSON string. So let me verify how things work. Admin, I'm going to give the same admin. In my case, it should have been saved. Where is this? Resources, local storage. The previous one, in fact, the first name stuff, that was the previous one. But here, username, password is male true, is female false, business true, travel true. Okay, I don't know whether everything is set to true. Okay, there are a couple of false also there. Yeah, it's all good. So all data have been saved now. As soon as user save the data, I want to dismiss this page, take the user back to the logins page. So to have that done, mobile, sorry, $.mobile. $.mobile tells I'm going to call a JavaScript jQueryMobile specific method. It's a method called back. Programmatically take the user back, so the page will get dismissed and data will be saved. I'm going to close this. As I'm going to register again, admin, and register. Page got dismissed. In my understanding, the registration would have gone successfully, and I'm ready to see the data. So now I need to enter the same username, password what I entered to see the content. I mean to see the launching page. Okay. How to handle that? This part, having a default selection, is not needed. I'll comment it, because anyway it is a fresh page which is getting registered. Now user will enter the username and password, should get evaluated and goes to a login. Okay, I'm going to write one more function. I'm not going to waste this time with the various objects. Okay, I need to have it. Storage, fetch data. So in the registration object, there will be a key called uname. That is going to be the registered username. So similarly, I'll also have one more object, registered password. It is called PWT. Now I can compare. So if the username entered and the password which is entered matches with the already existing username and password, it will allow. Otherwise, it is going to say the username password is going to be wrong. I'm going to need a small pop-up here to display the error message. I already told you this tutorial is going to be a quite longer one, so pop-up. Password alert. We need a What's the password alert we can display? If it matches, we'll have to route the user to other screen, otherwise display the pop-up. Something is not working here. Need to connect with the check login, this button. Okay, I'm not checking the blank space thing, but at least it's showing me something if I trying to enter. This password is wrong. If I enter admin, it won't display because it is the right username password. If I enter something else, it will display the wrong thing. So whatever the username password I registered, that only will get validated. Let me register as a different one. So admin, username password is password. Now the previous one won't work, so I need to use. So only the right username password, whatever the user used for registering the application, could be put into use, and that will eventually open the user to a login. Okay, so this is the place where I validate the user whether he logged in or not. So this is where I need to set the session. So from here I need to initialize the session stating that user has logged in, and accordingly the page load should happen. Let's see. To make that, I need to have further pages created. So this page is going to show the students, all students detail, and rich edit students. This is for editing. So two more pages I've added. First, the student page, I'm removing unwanted DOMs, which is not needed here. Same here also. Let me see if I can copy from the previous one. It is students. Let's see if any I can call add exist, because delete is there should be add also. So this field content part is not needed. So this is a student screen. So when the user, as soon as the user logs in, he is going to see the student screen. First we need to verify it works. I need to programmatically route the user. So dollar students.html. The third argument, I want to give some small transition. JavaScript object does not require quotations, so transition slide. It should be in a JavaScript object, not like a string. So the other two are string. So when the user enters the right username password, the user will see the content, which is called students admin password enter. So I think there is no content called add, image called add. I expected. Okay. So as soon as user enters the username password, he is going to see the list of students and option to add additional students, and we will also add an additional button for logout, so the user manually can log out. Couple of changes we need to do. I want to keep the logout button hidden instead of here. I'll keep it in the slider bar. I just kept it. Default is left itself, so but I still want to keep data position left. As soon as user click on this panel, additional option will appear where the logout option will be shown. Ah. So additional options going to be there. Data theme is in blank. So admin password. So additional option to log out, I kept it hidden because it's a usual technique to hide because as far as mobile application development, we should not want the user to log out often. Keep the user always using our application. If you notice your Facebook, Twitter, logout is very difficult. They would have kept it somewhere hidden. Similar technique we are using here. So we kept the logout somewhere hidden. So we won't give a chance to user to go out of our application. Okay, and this about, it's a little more tricky again. It is going to bring back the registration screen again, so user can change the username, password, and other settings. So that is for about. Maybe log out will log out the user. Maybe simply go back and clear the data. And data icon, what I suddenly I don't remember for add data icon. Plus is there. So when the user click on add, it will be displayed. Identifying what are all the data icons are existing, it is pretty easy, in fact. A similar naming convention would be there. Heart, lock, some stuffs are there. From here only I am picking it up. PNG icon, maybe add is missing, but see, remember if you notice the different type icons, SVG and icon PNG, which is having a different extension. Vector graphics, like in HTML5, I can dynamically draw a content, graphics I can make it, so instead of using picture format, I can dynamically draw something. So vector graphics option is also there in HTML5. We have one small topic to discuss about how to create a vector graphics in HTML5, but maybe a little introduction about it. So I've added up to this. So settings, everything is done. Only part we need to add the user option to add and insert the content. Before that, I want to finish the local storage, the session storage, then I'll leave you guys for a break, then we'll come back and add the other parts. Let me finish the session storage alone. Where's the registration is happening here. So this is where the user is registering and this is where the user is logging. So session will take effect as soon as user logs in. So what I'm going to do, a simple session storage is a global object, same like local storage. I'm going to add one key is login. I'm having a habit of keeping is as a prefix, mean it is going to contain a boolean value. It is to identify, because I always give a naming convention. So is female, is male, mean it is going to contain a boolean value. It may, I'm expecting either true or false state. So similar naming convention it is. So in this case, is login mean whether the user is logged in or not. I'm going to set it true. If something goes wrong, you set the session storage to false. The default position document ready always okay, we don't want to do it because session storage by default won't be existing if the page is opened or reclosed, so I don't need to set any value here. Session storage is login true, false, two state are set. In this I need to do quite, if the user is already logged in, I don't need to show the login page. So I'm going to do some trick here. If login screen, if at all a login screen is loaded, I'm going to check if session, if the user is already logged in, I don't want to display the login screen. I want to immediately take the user to this particular screen, students. Even though it will appear for some time, so automatically, if such a session exists, user won't be asked to enter the username password. He will immediately show on the students page because he is already logged in. If not, it will simply load the login screen. So but now there is no session storage. I'm logging in, fine. When I go back, yeah, so it's doing something else. Okay, let me see something going really wrong, but let me see what really settings. Even prevent default. Okay, now the user will only see the, if you try to load the index page also, that particular page won't come. This even prevent default or prevent, not sure, let me see that. Okay, so I'm not getting the index page, the login page again because I have already logged in. Maybe I will get back if I rerun my application. Session only lives unless until the user is opening the particular browser. The session storage will vanish as soon as user close the window and reopen it again. So now I close the window, I opened in another tab, so the session is no more existing. And any attempt to add admin, password, login. So now the user has logged in, and attempt to go back won't be working. So within that particular session, the session storage lives and it is going to having a positive value. We can verify that whether the session storage is there or not. Yes, there is a session storage saying is login set to true. So user won't be asked to log in if he is logged in already. This even prevent default mean it will stop the further propagation of this page change. It is not the exact fix, but I would like to tell the prevent default will abruptly stop your code there itself. it won't execute the further code. I noticed the page container before change is called twice, and that was making some sort of issues, something page moving between coming here. So as soon as I change a page to students, I'm preventing the further whatever executions. So that could be used as a event, the instance of event, and prevent defect. But it may have further issues, uh, but we'll see how we can fix it. Maybe I'll see adding the students and modifying them after the break, and we'll also see how the session storage could be put into use wherever the login store and other options are required. And also we'll add a logout and option to edit the registered user info as well. So after this particular, even though the requirement was pretty simple, now you may have noticed things are getting extended as we add a new feature. Okay, so guys can go for a break. Make sure you come within 15 minutes. We'll continue this.